Everybody, this is Jose with Oakland Latinos United, aka Oakland Latinos Unidos, on here with a new video for you guys to enjoy. Well, the video I'm going to make today is an Oakland Chicano history video, and it's on a topic that is not talked about much anymore, and it's an event that happened in Oakland with Chicanos and Raza 51 years ago today. Today being July 26th of 2021. This event happened in July 26th of 1970, and this was La Raza Unida Moratorium, or the Oakland version of the Chicano Moratorium, and this is actually one of the flyers, of the original flyers of that event. And what that was Chicanos at the time were protesting against Chicanos and Raza being drafted to the Vietnam War, because you got to remember at this time, people used to be drafted to war. Whether you wanted to go or not, you were forced to go. And this was 1970. This was the height of the Vietnam War. And Chicanos and black people were being basically drafted in large numbers. Chicanos, black people, and working class people in general, including whites and regardless of race. But a high number of Chicanos, Mexicanos, Puerto Ricans, and other Latinos were being drafted to the Vietnam War, and there was an awareness at the time of this. And you got to understand also, the Bay Area was the home and center of the anti-war movement. So the anti-Vietnam War movement was huge in Berkeley and Oakland and San Francisco. You know, there had been a huge protest in 1967 where white leftists where radical hippies had blocked the Oakland Induction Center, where they would induct people to go to the war, basically, and that was located in downtown Oakland, and that was a huge protest that you could probably look up. You know, there's history about it out there, and there had also been various protests against the Vietnam War in Berkeley, in San Francisco, and around the Bay Area. And you also got to remember that at this time, 1970, there were a lot of military bases in the Bay Area. There was the Oakland Army base, the Naval Supply Center. There was the Navy Air Base in Alameda. There was Treasure Island. That was a Navy base at the time. And there was various others, a naval weapons station in Concord, and so many other bases that were located at San Francisco Presidio, and etc. I could keep going. There was a lot of bases in the Bay Area at that time. And usually when they would draft people, they would induct them in the Oakland Induction Center, and then they would take them to the Oakland Army Base, where they would be trained and led out to the Vietnam War. So basically, Chicanos had started to organize against the Vietnam War at this time. And this wasn't just in Oakland. It was going on all over the Southwest, including LA, including Texas, including New Mexico, Arizona, and wherever Raza was at the time, Denver, Colorado as well. And this was the height of the Chicano movement as well. So there had been a push to have a huge protest in LA called the National Chicano Moratorium, August 29, 1970. So there had been a buildup before that for the Chicano Moratorium in LA in different cities. And Oakland was one of the cities where they had it. And before this event, there had been actually a high school walkout in East Oakland in May of 1970, where students from Castlemont, Fremont, Oakland Tech, Oakland High School, all the Chicano students walked out and marched to the Induction Center in downtown Oakland. The Brown Berets played a big part of it, and so did Frente Liberación del Pueblo, which was an organization that was doing a lot of work in Jingletown. But a group calling itself La Raza Unida Moratorium organized this build-up to the Chicano Moratorium in LA, which was a huge protest. And basically they called it La Raza Unida Moratorium Committee, and they basically formed a committee here in Oakland. And here it says that they were going to organize, this is one of the original news reports. It said that they were going to organize in basically in Jingletown, Said La Raza Unida Moratorium Committee of 3827 East 14th Street walked from Mary Help of Christians which is in East 9th Street to San Antonio Park. It says Robert Elias, a leader of the Chicano Moratorium Committee in Los Angeles, told the rally that Mexican Americans face police brutality, poor education, hunger, and politics. So yeah, this was a huge event that was organized in Oakland to basically coincide with the LA protest. So this was, Chicanos, young Chicanos, high school students from Fremont, from the different high schools around Oakland, and Chicano radicals like the Brown Berets, the Chicano Revolutionary Party, and various other organizations, including the La Raza Unida Moratorium Committee that had sponsored this protest. They organized this big protest to say basta with the war and basta with sending people to fight and die in Vietnam. And, the protest it's estimated it had between 500 to 1,000 people, maybe more. It started in Mary Help of Christians in East 9th, like the report said. This is an actual picture in front of Mary Help of Christians in Jingletown on East 9th. And they marched all the way to San Antonio Park. Those of you who know where that's at on Foothill. And they had a huge rally there with speakers and different things. And it was a very beautiful event. Raza in Oakland had actually organized to say basta with sending our kids to war. And the youth as well were saying, we don't want to go fight your war in Vietnam. And this is something that's not talked about. You know what I mean? Oakland played a big part in the Chicano Moratorium. I did an interview with a guy named Juan Espinosa, and he was actually doing security for one of the speakers at the Chicano Moratorium in Oakland, and that was Corky Gonzales, this man right here. He was there in Oakland at that Chicano Moratorium in Oakland 51 years ago. He was a famous Chicano revolutionary from Denver, Colorado, from the Crusades for Justice, who did a lot of fighting for La Raza at the time. He's the one that wrote the famous poem, I Am Joaquin. And Juan Espinosa did security for him when he came to Oakland. He was part of the Chicano Revolutionary Party. And he went out to LA and was part of the big Chicano Moratorium out there and did security for Corky Gonzales and for the moratorium. So people in Oakland actually played a big role in organizing the Chicano Moratorium in LA and organizing people from Oakland to go to LA. But like I said, they had their own version of the Chicano Moratorium. And once again, this is Chicano history that doesn't get talked about. You know what I mean? That I feel it's important, should be written in our history books, because once again, it's Raza from Oakland at the time organizing to say basta with the oppression, basta with them sending us to war. You know what I mean? And that's an important thing to know about. So yeah, that happened July 26, 1970 in Oakland, from Jingletown all the way to San Antonio Park. And they used to have a commemoration at San Antonio Park for this event, the Chicano Moratorium Committee, but they haven't done it in a while. Last year, we did a small little thing at San Antonio Park where we had Aztec dancers and speakers and music, but it was very small, and it was during COVID, so there was maybe only about 30, 40 people there. So it would be nice to have it again in the future. But yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know about that protest. Check out that video I did with Juan Espinosa. I'll leave a link on the bottom of it if you guys want to check that out. He gets more in depth on this protest and how he played a big part of it. But once again, this is Oakland Chicano history, the history of the Chicano Moratorium and how Oakland played a big part of it on July 26, 1970, when Oakland Raza said, basta with war, we're not going to go fight your damn wars. And they actually did something about it and protested it for sure, in a big way, not a small way, a big way, with big name hitters in the Chicano movement. And that's town business, for those of you who didn't know. Let me know what you think, and talk to you guys later. Chicano power, be safe.